Okay. Thank you very much for having you in such a good number. Not very big, but good number only on site, not online. I don't know the exact number online. I think that, yeah, we are more than 50 online. I hope that few more people will join us. Currently, we have visitors. Why we are speaking in English? We have visitors from Turkey, Moldova, Belarus, some other countries. I don't. Yeah. So Serbia, of course, Serbia, but they understand Macedonian. So we have from all the locations where we have offices. Welcome. I want to wish you welcome on the 36th Code Talks event, and I have that honor to open this event. My name is George Zakharchev, Quality Assurance Line Manager at Civus. I will give you some introduction about Civus. So this is 36 Code Talks, but this is the first event of this kind. Actually, we never had so far a panel discussion event, and in order to motivate at least the people here that are, we will give you a t-shirt for every question. So stop in the line, and we need to count how many t-shirts we need to print. We are Civus from Wednesday. We are more than 1,000 people actually, and we are currently 120 testing engineers only. Recently, I don't know how many of you know, but recently, a year ago, Rikoma Group, an ICT company from investment fund, actually from Czech Republic, acquired Civus, and now we are more than 4,000 employees as part of this group. So we are a company present on 6 continents. Maybe we have an office on Antarctica, or we have clients on Antarctica maybe, but at least we have development people on almost all continents, and clients, of course. We are, as I said, very big company in mostly development hubs in Europe, and we have office in United States as part of Civus. What else is important to say about Civus? More than 23 years present on the market. As I said, engineers, experts in different areas and fields, and some sort of expertise. That's why we decided to share some of our ideas. Because we are working on a lot of projects, so we are working on very different ways and very different approaches. That's why we decided to pick up from some of the top domains, let's call it like that, business domains, to pick one representative and to get some details about how they are doing on the projects, how they are doing automation, and how they are predicting the future in the automation field. We have automation from web, from API, and yeah, mostly web and API. We didn't manage to bring someone with mobile expertise because it's difficult to bring people, especially with this special situation. We have Dimitar from Telecom division. We have Jacqueline from Novi Sad office in the Banking and Finance division. We have Miljana from Microsoft division from Belgrade office, and we have Victor from Telecom division from Skopje office. So we tried to do some mixed Balkan, not the other places. So the first thing that I will give the guys and the girls actually a word to introduce themselves, to give us more details about their expertise and how did they started the software testing career. Jacqueline, I think it's your turn.
Okay. Well, my name is Jacqueline. I live in Novi Sad. I've been testing engineer for more than 10 years. I started as a PHP developer, but that was a little bit, well, how to say, boring for me to be a developer, and also they canceled the department, so I was offered some other areas and domains. So this sounded very exciting, at least, and I was a student, so I wanted to experiment a little bit. And I must say that I found myself in this area very much. Of course, I started as some kind of exploratory tester that looked more like ad hoc testing than exploratory at the time, but I read a lot about different techniques, different ways how to make myself better in this area. And after that, I heard about Selenium. That was very popular at that time, at least it started to be popular. So I started like automating some scenarios, some steps, and I soon realized that that helped me to speed up a little bit myself in the long run, and I had more time to do exploratory testing and add more value to the project and the stuff that I was doing. And soon I started like to finding and developing myself around different tools to see how I can help myself and the team to speed up the process to make tests more efficient. And I started with web automation and did some mobile as well. At the moment, I'm mostly doing API automation. So I guess that's for the start.
Thank you. Miljana?
Hi, my name is Miljana. I started as working as QA 2013, so a lot, 9-10 years ago. And first I started as a manual tester. Actually, this was not my field. When I graduated faculty, I graduated optoelectronics and nanophotonics, and somehow I ended up as QA. So I had some prior coding knowledge, but it was not object-oriented. When I started as manual QA, I started manually testing web services, and my method was mostly copy and paste. So I was looking what the other people were doing, and I was mostly just copy-pasting their scripts. So, as I say, I gradually working my way towards automated testing, and in the beginning it was really just half automation, half manual, but in the end I turned out like testing fully automated. First I worked in Groovy and JavaScript, and now I work in C# and mostly testing API and also UI on front-end testing. That's it.
So we can conclude that you was developer sometimes with copy-pasting.
Yeah, that's Stack Overflow for the win.
Yeah, but I suppose you didn't copy the question, you copied the response, because usually developers are copying the question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Victor, maybe you want to take over.
I will continue. So I'm Victor Petkovski, currently working as a senior software tester in SIUS, in Telecom division. And with testing, I go back to 2015 when I started the first time working on enterprise applications sub BW, in parallel which I did development also. So the main, how to say, reason why I really turned into testing more, now with automated, of course, is that the part after the development is done, to make sure that every aspect of the development being implemented works perfectly. So something that caught my eye, and that is why I transitioned into testing more thoroughly. Later on from that work environment, I transitioned into Civus back in 2018 into telecom domain, which I consider is one of the largest domains that are possibly there to work on application, because everything we do, the communication is part of that telecommunication. So enormous amount of testing on different aspects, a lot of application, dynamic environment, automated, can be implemented in every aspect of the development life cycle. So Yes, maybe I can conclude currently 7 and something years actively working in as a tester. And yeah, that would be all from me.
Thank you. Dimitar?
Thank you, Jure. I am Dimitar Popterpev. I am also a senior quality assurance in Sivus in telecom division. Total experience, working experience, I have 14 years, all of it in the telecom domain. I started as quality assurance in my previous company back in the end of 2015, beginning of 2016. Then I was testing the OS solution that was implemented back in the time. And I joined Sivus at the beginning of 2018 as a manual test engineer. A couple of months later, I started to learn about Selenium, about other testing tools available on the market. And I started using automation more and more. And now probably 90% of my work is related to automation testing.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with the questions now. My first question will be, how do you define automated testing process for 2022? So if we see the future, how would you define it for this year, for the current year? Who want to start? Any preferences?
Yeah, I can start.
Okay.
So how do I see it? It is, as you mentioned, 2022 year now, and the year itself is associating us to extremely dynamic and rapidly growing IT industry. And by this said, there are maybe 1,000 apps every day uploaded to platforms to be downloaded, so we can use them. And per se, if we divide them into 300 different categories, we will still have 3-4 similar apps on the same one category. So to be able, one of them, to stand out among all the others and to be the one that is most downloaded app, what should it have? So it should be with a flawless code and great user experience. And in order that to be achieved, if we want our application to be the most downloaded one, we need to make sure that we have that flawless code uploaded so people can download it and use it daily. To do that, we must extremely test the app and be 100% sure that it has the best quality. We are giving the customer the best experience. And yes, with this said, I think that specifically automated testing, because as I mentioned, rapidly is growing everything in IT industry, even bigger and bigger accent will be given to the automated testing into one development lifecycle.
Okay, thank you. Miljana, you would like to continue?
Well, yeah, what I noticed is that there are a lot of tools, a lot of apps, and you have to keep up with the trends. So what I noticed that there are a lot of apps, tools for automation that are easy to use. Like there is a lot less coding involved than, I don't know, but it was 10 years ago. So I think that the trend is going toward that AI area, where we will have a lot of, there are also on the market a lot of tools that are AI so oriented. So in the future, yeah, I think that that's like a trend, and that today is mostly as I see it right now.
Okay, Jacqueline.
Well, I don't think that the process is different than the 10 years ago. I think not that much changed, just we failed too much. And I think that we could learn so much from the failing and from the other people. And there is so much on the internet and so much case studies that we can analyze, and we can find our own way how to establish one process. But I think that the very important thing is to understand the environment in which our tests are going to be run. So if we are able to do that, and we are able to learn about the environment, about the tools that are being used in the process, because in most cases, at least in my experience, we are not the ones that are setting everything. We are not the ones that are setting the environment. It's something that comes with the project. So we are not the one who is choosing which continuous integration we are going to use. So it's something that comes with the project. So, and our tests, I mean, the time when our tests were run locally was fine 10 years ago, but now that's not the case. So we need to know how to connect our tests with everything else. And I think that we just need to see the failures out there and learn from them, like this guy who said on the internet, I learned from the mistakes of the people who took my advice. So something like that.
A very nice advice.
Yeah.
Dimitri.
Yeah, I agree with Jaglina. The process has not changed probably in the past 10 years. I mean, we need to choose the correct automation tool that we need to use depending on the application, on the environment that is developed and released. We need to design the tests that we want to execute and everything else. Yeah, there are advancements, sorry. In the process, we now have source code repositories sharing the projects, doing teamworks that was, let's say, harder in the past. Maybe now we can include our tests in the continuous integration and development cycle into the release process, and those are all advantages that are available to us at this moment. And because we are, well, mostly agile oriented, I believe that the future is automated testing and probably data-driven testing, testing with help of artificial intelligence, etc., etc.
Okay. So the question, because the technologies and automated testing didn't evolve so much in the past, did testers and automation testing, actually test developers, did they evolve, not the process itself? What's your opinion on that?
In which way you mean evolve?
Evolve in how they developed. Did they develop on better? Did we learn something?
Of course, I think that test automation itself, if you do not evolve together with the technology on daily basis, you will fail as a test automation tester, and hence everything is advanced. Talking when we are looking back 10 years ago until now, because we have new tools every day, which are improving our work process, easing our way of automating test scenarios. Now everything is one click away. You don't even need to know the coding, but you will be able to manage to create such automated test scenarios, because there are such tools now which monitor every click you do and just rework whatever you have done. So I think there is a big improvement, and yes, the automated testers are improving along the way.
Thank you. Someone else want to say something?
Well, for me, at least, I try to follow a lot of stuff, a lot of these new tools that exist, but it looks like there are too many tools and too many stuff, and simply for a normal person, it's not possible to follow in all of this. I think that yes, we evolved a lot, and we worked on our skills as well. And testers are now understand programming languages and the concepts at the first place much better. And I think this is a really, really important thing, because at least for me, knowing how to write piece of code, or then to understand how to make some kind of abstraction and to think on that way was so good, because I learned where to find mistakes. It make me better tester. And for me, at least, we always go suggestion in that direction try to learn the concept, try to learn how object-oriented languages works, because that gives you like a new perspective on things. And for me, this was like a really, really good thing. And I'm now able to find more bugs and much deeper bugs than I was than before, I would say.
Someone else want to add something?
Yeah, I would like to add that even with these new, let's say, tools that we have that record everything that we do and then mimic our behavior, even now we need some even maybe basic knowledge of programming. Advanced is preferred, definitely, because even now we need to do some manual changes into the scripts that are automatically created from these tools. So definitely we need some background in programming and programming languages.
Okay. Miljana, you want to add something?
When you asked have testers involved, I mean, we are generally from the minute first, we are learning how to handle unknown and to learn a lot of things about different areas. So I think we're pretty adaptable, and in that way, that following the trends, that everything is getting more and more complex and everything needs to be delivered faster. So I think that the testers have that, QAs have that in.
Excellent. I have one more question later about following trends, so I will leave it for later. Some of you mentioned that are working on different levels, like API, web, also mobile. What do you think? What is the cheapest? What is the basic testing that need to be done on which level? So which level should be automated first in order to have more cost-effective automation?
Well, I would not say it like that. I think that we need to target first the most testable area of the project, and then to see there what kind of, on which level we should automate that. I mean, maybe it's not possible to automate any API because that does not exist. But I would aim for the most testable part of the software, the first. And then based on that, I will see on which level I would make automation. But if I have all levels available, for sure, I mean, unit testing is the most effective. But in most cases, I didn't have chance to write any unit tests so far. But I think definitely APIs, because they like provide the fast feedback. And in the environment that we are working, like this continuous integration, continuous development, the most important thing is fast feedback, because I want to know what I messed up with my code. And I think that this is very, very important when we talk about automation in DevOps especially, and not to include some tests that run like for 10 or 15 minutes. I think that we need to have results like in 2 or 3 minutes, and these tests need to aim the very important parts of the project itself. So I would start, if I have available, from API and then go to web, but it all depends. We need to give it the context in order to say what is the best.
Okay.
I think we should start smoke test first. So anything that's like essential smoke, anything that should be automated first, like Jacqueline said.
Regardless of the level.
Well, it's like on any level. I mean, whichever is like the most available.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on the level, I mean, it depends also on the project you're working on. If the project is API oriented and you have a little to non-graphical interface, then you will focus on API testing. If the project is more user interface related, then you will automate first the user interface tests.
Okay. Victor, you want to say something? Or?
Yes, but in the end, everything should fulfill the purpose of the core of the application. So it must function perfectly with minimum test executed, whatever it is. Yes, as everyone mentioned, based on the project, but the core should be intact. So yeah.
Okay, you've started my next question. That should be, according to your experience, what are the 3 key benefits, or regardless, doesn't need to be counted, that when we start test automation that we should set that we need to achieve? What are the core benefits we want to set and we want to achieve?
Well, I can think of 2, not 3,
Okay.
at the moment. Sorry? Yeah.
Go ahead.
The first one would be we can if incorporated properly within the release process, we are getting the first test results minutes after the release. So that is one of the maybe the biggest benefits from test automation. And if something is wrong, we will know immediately. And the second benefit I can think of is that it significantly reduces the time needed for test execution. Depending on the tests that we have, some manual tests may need to be executed in a couple of days, but with automation we can do that in a couple of hours.
Okay. Someone else want to say something, or we can go to the next question?
Well, I already...
Yeah.
Okay. As I already mentioned, I think that having fast feedback in the current setup of the most projects is like very important, and having automation gives you more confidence and can reduce your time needed for the testing and give you more time to find real bugs. And I think this is also very, very important to have in mind. If you're not the one who is doing exploratory testing, maybe you will have much more time to do a really valuable stuff. So I think that this is maybe, for me at least, one of the key points for having the test automation. But also I think that real benefits need to be aligned with the objectives that we set up for test automation as well. So based on that, we will know if we have those benefits or no.
Okay.
Yes, I want to add up something like that is correct. Everything we want to achieve with automation testing is that we want to free up the resources. And how to do that is that whatever we have done manually so many times, in so many repetition, and in many cases, not even in parallel, if we automate all those stuff, we'll free up a lot of resources. Also, we'll improve the accuracy of the test, because if we do manually something, there is always possibility of human error. So whatever we automate, we know for sure that it is like that and will work like that until we again touch it. So that is the aim of the automating tests, to have better application.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would say also you are allowed to cover a lot of more data than you would normally do. So that's also benefit. You can cover as many scenarios, with so much data input. So that's a...
Okay. I know most of you have started several times from scratch, setting up framework and setting up a proof of concept first for the client. When you work with new people, what are the common mistakes that people do usually with test automation? What are these common mistakes that you can notice as a pattern that are repeating on every project?
They want to automate it all. And mostly these kind of clients, they give up after one round of negotiation. At least this was in my case. But yeah, they're very optimistic and they think that this is a silver bullet. And you need to convince them and make them realize what they can expect from that, especially if they did not have any introduction with automation before that. They need to realize that this is just one help, and this is just one activities among so many testing activities that we are doing. And but this is something that they can see. So I guess this is something that shines, and this is what makes them want to have it. But I think that everyone is overrating the automation and the things that it can do. I think nothing can substitute the human brain. So we need to invest in ourselves and learn new testing techniques as well, and then to know how to, and then to switch to automation and automate some checks that we find out that they are important for the project, of course.
Someone else wants
Yeah,
to?
I think they mean that with automation we'll have less bugs that leak into production. That's not the case. I mean, because each one of those can be like some specific scenario or something that should be thought of beforehand and requires human thinking, and so that's what I experienced.
Dimitar or Victor have something to add?
Yeah, well, as Jacqueline said, they expect to automate everything, and sometimes they are thinking, let's say, okay, I will automate my tests, and I don't need any testers anymore. I will just run the tests, and that's it. But that's not the case. I mean, human factor will always be present. Even if there are no new test cases to be automated, there is always a maintenance and something like that.
Agree.
Okay. Very good answer.
Short and
The
clear.
best answer. Okay, I have heard about replacing software testers with automation in the last 15 years. I'm constantly hearing that. So what do you think? Is that doable in the next 10 years maybe?
Does anyone do that? Did that? Did you hear about this?
No one succeeded. So
Yeah.
what's your opinion?
Well, I never heard that this happened, so I don't think that we need to worry about this.
I
Cannot
don't,
be
so if someone worries about that, don't worry.
I
That's
only-
Jacqueline's advice. Yeah, go ahead.
I heard that they are not using testers at all. So like Amazon or eBay or big companies, do not have QA. Their devs unit test and they roll out into the production with all the bugs. So I mean, that's a way.
Yeah, there is one term, I don't know, have you heard it? It's called mechanical Turk. So someone manually is checking, so you have few million users of Amazon, and actually they are checking for you. So it's doable. There is doable because someone will report it. Someone will, at the end of the day, lose money, so he will report it. Yeah, he will worry about that. Someone wants to say something about this, or? Okay. The biggest problem that we are facing a lot when we have web application is the maintenance, the changes in the UI and the resistance. How you deal with the test maintenance? Is there a trick, or you're just simply doing the job?
Well, the trick is that you must first design the test automated scenario before starting developing it. So whatever you do is first know the application, how it works, whatever is there on the page that you see and that you are trying to locate, and then execute some action on it. So now we are speaking for web automation. Know the elements, know how it is developed, so you can start with better developing of automated test scenario. So let's take web application, for instance. Those elements on the page are built up with a lot of different information. So one element has a lot of information. Under what tag is it as a front-end develop? What attributes does it has? Does it has some ID or class or whatever? Whatever you do is first go seek with the most unique attribute that the element can have. So in that case, you know that all the time, whenever you execute this scenario, you will locate that element because it has that same ID all the time. But if we choose to locate that element with, locator such as absolute path, the XPath locator, then we might face issue very fast, because whenever the UI changes, we might not find the element under that absolute path on the web application. So this main point is that we should always upfront design and think how we will implement the automated test. In that case, we will have at least maintenance. Other stuff like, of course, upgrading versions, upgrading APIs, platforms, whatever it is something that we cannot avoid. We, of course, have to follow that versioning and upgrade of technology. But what we can do to save up maintenance on the test is to design them first, think whatever we want to implement into code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I like the approach. I mean, yeah, of course, it stands that you have to create tests that's maintainable, that is almost bulletproof, but for some reason, developer will change that ID or... So in my case, it happened like you break it, you fix it. So it happens that in some cases, developers are working closely with the QAs, and they also are able to run the tests with their code with continuous integration, and then they can identify tests that fail, and they can maintain them along with your help or with themselves. So,
Someone else wants to say something, or we can?
Okay, yeah, well, we tend to use those fixed, let's say, constant IDs that are for every element, for every field in the web application, but there are some situations where you either cannot find the ID or it is not available at all, and there is no other way than to use absolute XPath to locate the elements. So in those cases, yeah, we need to do manual changes in the scripts if something is changed on the UI.
Yes, of course. So the point was that we should always seek for the best way forward, not for what is the easiest thing. And if we cannot find some idea or class or whatever combination of attributes that by which we can locate the element, then we can go with the XPath and think about the changes on UI level later on. But yes, the point is how to start when designing the scenario.
Well, I would like to add something more like let's say on the high level. So why we have maintenance at all? Mostly it happens because something is changed in application, so we need to have our tests aligned with that. Or for example, we have found some really fancy library that we want to include in our tests, and then we saw that we need to change some stuff, or maybe just we need to retire some tests as well because they are not needed anymore. This part of application is not needed. And of course, occasionally we just find out that we need to refactor something because when we started, we have in mind 20 tests, and now everything is grown to 100 or maybe 1,000. And the mindset that we are using with developing 100 and 1,000 tests, this is simply not the same. Of course, we need to think maybe that in front, that when we develop something that need to be scalable. So at least when I develop some tests, I always want to be agile. I want to be independent from other tests and always separate the test data from the test itself. It proved very beneficial, at least in my case. And I think that also some coding, the coding standards the developer as well used, we should also learn them. So we need to follow some of the guidelines. We need to follow the principles of the programming languages that we are using. And I think that the good framework that we are developing, at least if we everything do in the open source, I mean, we are using some libraries like Selenium, Appium, or whatever, we need to write our code so it's reusable, but also not to go too far with that, because on the other side of reusability, there is readability. So, for example, when I'm doing that, sometimes I prefer to have readable code and less reusable. And sometimes vice versa. It really depends, as I always say, on the context and where are you and which kind of environment you do. So, for example, if I'm working with less experienced people, I will go with more readability because they need to learn and figure out the stuff for themselves. And I think that when we are developing, we need to have this kind of stuff. And also, I saw, for example, many times, I review so many frameworks, your class should do always one thing. Single responsibility is the main thing that we need to pay attention when we're developing our code. And I noticed, for example, that testers, when they are developing their code, they like to put everything in one class. And it's like, and then when it comes to refactoring, it is like past so many and no one wants to touch that. And that is like holy grail, and it's just there standing, and it's just irritating you. And everyone is like scared to do anything about it. So I think that we should not let this happen, and we should like think more to prevent stuff and move it, like, you know, shift it left. But of course not to think that much, because we don't know what is going to change. And especially if you're working in agile environment, it's hard to know what comes next. So I think that some of the coding principles, some of the object-oriented principles should be followed anytime. And this will help us doing more maintainable code. But also, on the other hand, you have a lot of commercial tools which like give you framework, not for free, of course, for some amount of money, but all of the stuff that you need to develop by yourself is provided by this commercial tool. And sometimes, especially, for example, for one period of my life in one company, I needed to do so many Windows applications, automation that were so old, and it's like nothing helped, nothing from the open source world. And it was like, try with this tool, try with that tool. And I mean, I don't want like now to make commercial of the tools, but only one tool which is currently on the market were able to solve, to interact with my application.
Was it Microsoft?
Of course. It was some customized framework over some VP form, something, and it's like you're typing something in this application and that is streaming to Internet Explorer, and then you do something in Internet Explorer and that's streamed back. It was like some kind of madness, I would say. I mean, this is something that I saw first time in my life. And like approaching this was like, oh my God, what I should do here. But I mean, I just started doing, let's try it with this tool, with that tool. I tried to like write to the support for some of the tools, please help me, what I should do. You say that you support this, but it turned out it's not like that. So it really depends. But what I wanted to say, when you write your own frameworks, which give you much more freedom than commercial tools, for example, you need to learn some basic concept of programming. And that will help you making your tests very maintainable.
Okay, thank you. Someone else want to say something on this topic, or I should go something related to this, because you're giving me a lot of ideas. Are you currently, because you mentioned so many things, is there something you want to share that happens at the moment, some problem or some interesting story that you want to share with some of the colleagues, maybe related to this technology related stuff? Or is there something that happened recently, something interesting to share?
Except this.
But be honest, don't yeah.
Well, I think I've been honest too much.
Yeah.
Well, I think that beside these stories, well, there are a lot of variation on this topic, I guess. But this one that I presented like a few minutes ago, I think this was like one of the things where I didn't simply know what I should do. And especially if you work in corporates, like where everything is forbidden to you, this is like much harder to do than in any other environment, I would say. But I mean, and beside that, you always have a client who simply does not understand why is this not working.
Simply.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you talk with with the client, which is not that technical, you have a hard time to explain why something is not working, why something cannot be automated. So I think that we already just mentioned, when you are doing some kind of your test automation strategy, always write what is out of the scope and why it's out of the scope. And it's just give you much less headache when times come, and the time will come.
Okay, sooner or later the time will come. Okay, now's the time. Okay, someone wants to add something, or we can continue with the next question. Does anyone from you guys have some question, maybe something to ask about related to this thing, or maybe wants to share a story with us, something interesting that happened? So if you want to share it, you can share it later when we will turn off the cameras. So don't be afraid to share an interesting story. Don't be afraid from the people, they will not watch, because the guys maybe are not in this industry now if they have these problems. How about different technologies and different programming languages? How do you see? So most of you mentioned that recently it's very a lot of new tools are coming up, like tools in C#, tools in Java, tools in JavaScript, TypeScript, Python. How do you see on this? Should we focus on all of these programming languages? Should we focus on concepts more? Should we focus on something else? So what is your experience? Because I know most of you have faced this problem, because different clients, so you're now starting with Cypress because it's the latest, and the client wants something even newer, like Playwright. Or how do you see on this stuff? Can someone share some experience with?
Yeah.
So.
Funny that you mentioned Cypress and Playwright. Yeah, I had the recent experience with that, and in my view, I mean, yeah, we should follow the trends. But for instance, for Playwright, the problem, it was well worked for our platform. Our platform was advanced, and for a moment it worked right. But then the problems came, and it had not. Playwright does not have a lot of support. So for a lot of issues, we could not find, there was not the answer provided. So we switched to Cypress, and yeah, it worked well until you had to
switch to Playwright again.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, it's a lot of. It has to be a team decision. It has to be a communication. It has to be something that is closely related to the code in which the app is or software is. So that's, in my experience, it's how you actually choose programming language, something that's close to the code which you're testing. And if you can, you could always turn to Java.
Or turn back to the proven technologies.
Yeah, you can go
So
all these goodies.
Does this mean that if there is a new technology, we shouldn't switch immediately? Or we should wait for some time for most of the things to be sorted out? Or we should it depends from the application we do it?
It depends. If it's a big corporation, if it's like a big application, switching to new tool, it's really painful. It's going really slow. You have to convince a lot of people and to do some test group first. So you have to be really sure that this new tool is going to work for you, and to have all pros and cons before you even start to implement it. So.
Okay. Someone wants to say something? I actually asked 2 questions because. Yeah.
Yes, on this I can add comment, whatever you do, just focus first on the core of what the concept of the programming is. Whether it is object-oriented, for instance, what are the main concepts, the main segment, how it works, how it operates, the way of designing scripts under object-oriented programming. Because in my experience, I have done stuff into Java, into .NET, into Python. Everything is the same. What the main difference between all those scenarios done under object-oriented programming is only the syntax. The logic stays the same. The way you think of how to design anything under certain technology, first thing, how it is built up, whether it is object-oriented, if you do maybe assembly testing, whatever, how that code is working. There are several different languages there. So think of the core of the concept of the programming. So as I mentioned, object-oriented, for me there was no difference. I just needed to learn something else which took maybe 2 days. How can I migrate from Java to .NET? So that's it. 2 days just to learn how can I operate into another IDE with another programming languages. Small syntax difference, and that's it. That is the experience for me. So yeah, focus more deeply on things, and yeah.
On the concepts instead of technologies. Dimitar, you're raising the microphone, so.
Yeah, definitely it shouldn't be seen as an obstacle. I mean, it can be challenging sometimes to learn something new, to switch from one tool to another, to switch from one to another programming language, but with a little bit of effort and learning, you can switch easily and do what you need. So it's definitely not an obstacle.
Okay.
Well, I would add here that it really depends again on the context, because if we are like working in some environment and we have our automated tests and everything, and we just want now to switch to something new because it's new, I really don't see the point, because it's I don't know. I need to do my homework there. I need to know what benefits I will have for introducing some new tool. And only that, if I calculate my costs very good, I would think about switching to this new tool. Otherwise, I think that doesn't really make sense. But of course, if we are like somewhere on some project where the client is the one who is deciding that, and we just don't ask, no one asks us, which is also the case. Well, I guess that you then need to know the concepts. I mean, this will help you to learn the new programming language much faster. And with the technology and the stuff that are going on in the world, I think that this is like the must. This is the only way how you can switch from one language to another, to one tool to another. So you learn the concept, you learn the patterns, you recognize the patterns, and this is the only way of fast switching from one thing to another. I mean, this is mostly all the same. If the syntax of the language is your only problem, I think that you don't have a problem.
Thank you. So I've heard a situation where a lot of people, especially those calling themselves like only automation engineers, not testers, they want to have already developed manual tests so they can start automating and work only on automation without dealing with the business domain, without dealing with the problems the application has. How do you see on that? Is that something that should be normal, or that should be something that should be reworked and done on a different way?
Well, I don't want to be a developer. So I guess I would not. I don't think that this is a good idea, because I think that one automation tester needs to know the domain. He needs or she needs to know what are the crucial stuff in the application which is under the test. And just having the automated scripts handled and it's like you automate this, I think that a lot of stuff will go unnoticed with this approach. At least this is my experience. Of course, in a really, really big teams, maybe that makes sense, but this is, well, not really agile, I would say. And at least if I can choose, I prefer to work in agile team where I am the one who can do all of this stuff and have different activities during one sprint. So for me, this is much more fun because I can see what is the important thing there, and I can like plan automation around it. And I think that in that way I can cover much more, and this coverage will be more effective.
Someone else wants to say something?
Yes, I would also comment that those should not be separate things, because there cannot be only automation tester without very well taught manual tester. Because first what you need to do is to design the scenario, and you should click it out throughout the web application, know where to check, what to do, what to insert as a data. And to be able to design a well scenario, you must know the domain, the business domain very well. So you first need to be good at the business domain, to know the application, to know the core functionality, and later on, whether you will achieve automated tester level or not, it depends on what you want to do. But those should not be separate segments, manual and automated tester.
Okay.
Yeah, I think automation is a tool, actually. I mean, first of all, you're a tester, and then you use automation as something that helps you to make coverage and to, make your life easier. So yeah, I think there is a sentiment that people are like thinking that manual testing is something less than doing automation testing. In my experience, I mean, it's just you are a few steps back. Maybe you learn, a couple of languages, and then you can call yourself automation tester. I mean, it's really not much difference. So it's all coming down that you need to be a good manual tester first, then you can consider using automation as a tool.
So it's your decision. Are you going to repeat the same tests over and over again, or you will let some machine to do it for you?
Yeah, I mean, some people prefer to work like those tasks. I mean, I met some people who like to do manual extensive testing. Even if I show them like, you can make your life easier. No, this is how I like it, and it works for them. So,
yeah. Even there are some clients that want that approach. So we mentioned a lot of things about test tool selection, about test criteria. So let's start one by one. So what is your advice or your experience with tool selection? So what do you pay attention when you're selecting a tool if the client wants that from you? Or what would you recommend to the other people who are here about test tool selection?
Well, I would say that first of all, you need to see if your tool can interact with your application. I mean, if it cannot interact, then there is no point of using this tool. The second step is to see how this tool can fit into environment. Can this tool be integrated, for example, with Jenkins, if everyone using Jenkins or GitLab or Azure DevOps or whatever. So I think that this is very, very important thing to notice. And of course, maybe you have some third-party software which also need to be integrated in all of this. So can this tool that you're choosing is also the tool which can interact with this? Also, sometimes some of these tools require to change the code, and this level of intrusion maybe is not good, or something, it's not a path that you want to go. And also, sometimes some tools require, I don't know, so much resources, and also it's not the path that you want to go. And sometimes some tool is simply very complex to use it, because, for example, you have 4 people in your team. One is like has more skills in developing, and maybe 3 others does not. So I mean, it's way too complex. You cannot choose it because no one can use it. You need like to have extensive education on this. Maybe in that period of time you don't have that, or maybe you just have a limited budget. So this is something that determines what tool you are going to choose. So I think that really all depends on the context and where are you, on which project. But I think that, as I first mentioned, know your environment. Know where you work, what tools are used, and with what other tools your tool needs to integrate with. And I think this is at least the start pack. I would call it like that.
Okay, someone else want to say something, or?
Yeah, definitely has to be some team decision, in my experience. I mean, I like to discuss with as many people as possible, preferably with the whole team that will use this tool or come in contact with this tool. So the more people weigh in, the more you, like Jacqueline said, you can get to the right decision in that.
Okay. What is your test selection criteria? So at the beginning, Miljana, you mentioned something, so I said we will leave it for later. So maybe you want to start on this topic about test selection criteria.
Yeah, you start with the tests that needs to be run. For example, when you have a build, you need to run smoke tests. So that would be the first tests, any kind of smoke tests, API, web, UI, whatever. And then I would probably go to the ones that are regression. So all the tests that are need to be run to make sure that this new functionality is working. So either all the tests or maybe some part to ensure that coverage. And later on you go by critical and main functionality. Repetitive.
Yeah. Someone else want to say something on this topic, or it's clear enough what
No,
should
she
be?
covered all the cases.
Yeah. Someone maybe has a question? Anyone maybe online? From the guys online? Maybe has questions. Let's check the online questions while we are giving some time to the guys. We are waiting for online maybe, or don't be shy, guys. Ask questions. Don't be shy. Okay, excellent. So we have just a few positive comments and no questions so far. It looks like it's pretty clear. So I'm always struggling having this problem to explain to the people that not all the tests that are, not all the scripts that are written are automated tests. Do you have this problem, and do you have a definition when something can be called a test automation?
Well, yes, that is the case, that different testing are mixed up, whether it is a valid automated test or something else as a script that is ran and should maybe something do a small check. So of course, if it is part of development life cycle, then it should be considered as automated test scenario and is a part of that deployment to production that is tested under that case ID, and we can consider it as an automated test. Whatever is extra done as a script should be done only as a support for something for us to check automatically.
Someone else want to say something?
Well, I think that we first need to make distinctions between the script itself, I mean the test itself, and the test automation solution, or the framework, how we call it. Because all of this can be one artifact of our solution. For example, sometimes I see that I can just write some batch script which will do some stuff for me. Well, this is an artifact of my solution. Why shouldn't I use it if it saves my time? So, as I think mentioned in the beginning, I think that we need to search for the tools that save us our time, and we should not just, when we are talking about automation, we should not only talking about the scripting. I mean, this is just one part of it, but everything that I think saves my time and it's automated, and I see that I can automate it and I can speed up myself. I mean, why not? Why not set up preconditions for some tests that I need to do manually? But for example, one of part of the precondition I can automate. Yes, it's a half automation, but it saves my time. Why should I not do it? I think that we all need to recognize this kind of stuff. And for me, this is working in one optimal environment. So just use brain and see the patterns and learn about the tools and how other people fail and how other people are doing stuff. And I mean, you can learn a lot about that.
I can share some of my experience with this topic. So usually I've seen a lot of tests that are written with hard-coded data that works only at given period of time, not dynamically, not if some changes are done. So some tests that cannot be executed on another environment. I'm also struggling to prove to the guys that are writing some sort of scripts in Postman usually, because their data is completely hard-coded and their test works only once. So if you need to re-execute it, you need to change something manually. So that's why that was my idea. I cannot call this test automation because it requires manual work. So some of the things that you mentioned at the beginning, data that is separated from the test itself. So my idea for test automation is this, and first criteria for declaring something as test automation is to have an assertion that something happened. Because I've seen a lot of tests, usually when some tasks are given as part of recruitment, when no assertion is done. So maybe now you have something more to share or something to...
Well, that's called RPI. When you don't have assertions, but you just have like business... some business scenario automated. I mean, this is one way
business
how...
process,
yes, one you have...
robotic process automation.
Yeah, so this is RPI in the basics. So, I mean, this is fine if this is what you want to achieve. I mean, but if you want some automation, then you need to have asserts there and over and there.
Dynamic data and...
Yeah, and as I mentioned, it's very crucial to have data separated from the tests. Don't have anything hard-coded. I learned it on the hard way. So
I would call the developer written tests without assertions, like...
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's kind
copy paste from somewhere.
they have to pass, so they don't put assertions and everything is fine.
Yeah, yeah. Depends of if you have a demo with a client, maybe that helps. So good idea. So remove all of your assertions on the demo, and everything will magically work. And if it doesn't, works. Yeah. I have a few more questions because we talked a lot and we have a lot to talk about. My questions, but we didn't discussed about few topics, and these are cloud platforms for continuous integration and cloud platforms for remote execution. So what's your experience with this distributed execution? Like, we have a lot of distributed execution that are not very expensive, like browser stack, Lambda test, cross-browser testing. So are these valuable to be invested in, or we should implement our own infrastructure using Docker, using virtual machines? So how would you comment on this topic?
Well, I would go, it depends on what is being done with those helper application, whether on cloud or not. So whatever we are touching and trying, for instance, if we go with deployment application like Jenkins, whatever code is being transferred from test environments to production or development to test then production, we must be careful what we put up on a cloud, because we don't want some security breach to leave out information that are very sensitive. So from that point of view, I still have doubts on cloud solutions, and that is the only thing that concerns me, because data leaks are, how to say, on a daily basis now. And I don't believe that even a client would give a green light that we want to have everything implemented and be able to maintain it over cloud. There are helper tools which, as you mentioned, simulate like device farm, and we want to test on cross browser and different screen sizes at the same time. But we should be careful what we put on cloud also, because of those security breaches. That is the main concern, in my opinion.
Someone else wants to share something on this topic?
Well, I think that it again really depends. I mean, with these tools, with SourceLab, Browser Stack, I don't know, Test Object, I think now it's part of SourceLab, you don't need to worry about reporting that much. Because if something fails, you go and you see some video or some fancy report, and the troubleshooting is much easier. But so I think in this way, and also you can make, but you can do this as well with the Docker. So this parallel execution is not a problem. If you do a parallel, you need to think upfront how to design your tests, but this is another topic. And when you have, for example, your tests run in the Docker or some GUI-less environment, you need to invest much more in reporting, because when tests fail, why it fails? So you need to, especially if you, for example, using Java, C# or something else, you need to like log every step that you are doing, and you need to think about that upfront. And only in that case your troubleshooting will be easier. At least this is in my experience, because I don't want to lose too many time on seeing why something failed. And from that point of view, I don't know really what should you choose. It again depends on your environment.
And the budget.
And the budget, because these tools, I mean, these platforms, they are very expensive. They're not hard to set up, as I remembered. I used them on one of the projects. They were very easy to set up. For example, I had much more trouble running tests in the Docker than having this setup. But I think that this is like the main concern and the main thing that I would think in the future when I need to choose between these two. But if I have money, I will choose SourceLab or Browser Stack.
Okay. Someone else wants to share something?
I think these tools are useful for when you want to simulate a lot of connections, and mainly for performance testing. They will work when you want to check if a lot of users with heavy load, stress testing, and simulation with a lot of inputs. But I would agree with the guys, so not use any sensitive information there, and just maybe mock data or stuff like that.
Okay. How about, because I'm hearing this on interviews constantly, that guys are not responsible for the setting up the continuous integration, maintaining, doing the configurations. What do you think as a testing engineer? Should we possess these skills, and should we do it, or we should wait for someone else, for some operations guy that will come up and will have that in 2 weeks and have configured for us? So what do you think on these skills? Should we do on this problem? Should we sort all of our problems by ourselves, or we should involve someone else? Because continuous delivery is something that we are part of, and we need to integrate our project into the pipeline.
Yes. So I would definitely go by your own. Do not wait on anybody. So get your hands dirty and do the job, because you will only in that case learn how everything works into the specific details, because that is the way forward. So whatever we do, we should do it by ourselves. And beside that, that continuous integration should be part of a quality assurance team. And we should be a significant part of that. As you, of course, mentioned that even we have integrated test scenarios there. So, yes, of course.
If you have time. I mean, there is a lot of tasks that one QA should do, and to be involved in every step, it's pretty much extending.
So you don't have 45 minutes?
Then,
Kidding.
yeah, I had to learn to set up some things in CI because we could not find the DevOps who could help us. But it is useful to have at least some knowledge, some basic knowledge, but not to do everything ourselves, I think. It's too much.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that we should try to do it ourselves, to set up the pipelines ourselves, at least to gain the knowledge. Yeah, it's easier to find some developer that will do it for you and will set everything up. But what if he leaves and something needs to be changed or fixed, or you need to create another pipeline, and probably no one else in the team knows how to do it. So it's worth investing in that area.
Okay.
I would say just do it.
Just yeah. So if you're recruiting, so let's put this situation. If you're recruiting and you're looking for teammates for your project, what are the needed skills and what are the soft and technical skills actually that you will look for? What you will recommend to the guys? What should they focus on?
Enthusiasm. I mean, be willing to learn. I mean, that's the most essential part, actually. In my experience, no candidates were chosen based only on technical knowledge or soft skills. It's a good mix of both, of course, but it's mainly that you see this person is willing to work that it's passionate about this job, and that it's willing to learn what he or she doesn't know. So that's why number one pick. I mean, I would choose that person over, anyone else.
You guys?
Yeah, I would say that they would need to have at least basic knowledge of some programming or some tools, at least that are on the market, to have read something, how they work, how to operate, and etc. Everything else you can learn by just doing the job. So experience comes with the time. We are not born with it.
Yes, I would go must be enthusiast and very eager to learn, fast learner also, and really like technology, because everything that you should do and will do and try to achieve will lead you up into those technology segments, and you should evaluate by those topics.
Well, I agree with the guys. Just I want to add that I think that communication skills are very important, because we are mostly working as some kind of mediators. Or, I know we need to go to ask this person that, to ask some other person something else, and I mean digging into stuff, because in the most of the time I never worked on any project where you have like complete documentation or like complete user story. Maybe someone else did, but I'd never seen that.
Is there something like that? Full documentation?
I never seen it. I don't know, but I think that because of that, you just know you need to have like this kind of mindset that you need to go around and ask, and that's a part of your job. And I think that because of that, your communication skill and also your presentation skill, because sometimes I have a feeling that the stuff that we are doing is like a mystery to the people. I don't know, maybe you have this feeling, I have it. So we need to present what we have done, maybe sometimes in some funny way. I mean, just to reach the people, just for them to know that we are doing something, and we are doing something very valuable there. And I would work on these skills as well, because I don't think that they are hard to learn, and there are techniques which can some experienced people around you probably give you, and this will help you a lot when you know how to present what you have done. This can like level you up very, very much, I would say. And of course, all the other things that guys mentioned are very important. But when I talk with someone on the interview, I know I always see if can I work with this person? So maybe this is the question that I always ask myself, and I get it from there, I would say.
Excellent, thank you. So maybe as a conclusion at the end, do you want to say something that you didn't have chance to say related to test automation and developing a career in software testing? Is there something that you want to share with?
Well, I think that just you need to start doing it, not think about that much that you need to do it. And, learn. There are so many information on the internet and so many courses, so many stuff, people around you. There are so many people who are really willing to help. And I think that maybe this should be a main start. And just try to upgrade it. Don't be afraid to fail, because everyone is failing, and fail fast, because this is like maybe that's I needed this advice when I started. Fail, but fail fast. And this is the fastest ways how you can learn. And don't be afraid, because everyone made mistakes and they are just pretending that they are perfect, and they are not. So I guess.
Okay, maybe someone else want to share something?
I would say it's sorry.
No, go.
I say it's like it's easy actually. When you start working, sometimes to people who haven't done automation, it looks like some big deal, that there's a lot of coding knowledge involved. Actually, it's pretty easy. Just don't be afraid, and it's not a big deal actually. So everybody can learn to do it.
Yes, so I just wanted to add that once you get to the level of automation tester, you will see that the path you have walked and acknowledge all those technology and languages and whatever you have faced with, now it pays out, because the freedom you receive when you are designing by your own automated scenarios and see them work is like the best thing that you will see at the end of the day. So always strive to move forward together with the technology, be better every day, and yes, it will be great at the end.
Okay, Dimitar, you want to share something?
Yeah, definitely don't be afraid from failure, because we are learning from our mistakes and our failures, and that's how we get better and better in the field.
Or you can learn from the mistakes from someone
From the
else.
others, yeah,
from,
definitely.
From your advice. Yeah, that is the cheapest. Yeah. Maybe someone else has a question, or we can wrap up here for today. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. We can turn off the cameras if you want. No one will see that you're asking. We'll have one secret camera that you will not have, don't know about it, but yeah. If we don't have any questions, yeah, one question we have there, maybe 1 second, let me just...
Okay, so I want to ask, observing our lifetime from past till now and looking towards the future, is it possible, it's just an idea that came up to me, is it possible, for now as I can see, we can automate manual testing to be automated, but is it possible to automate automation testing? That's my question.
Well, I will try to answer you on this one, and I think that it will be possible, because how I see the future is that if and when we integrate artificial intelligence into automation testing, then it should be able to create new tests based on the features that we are implementing on the application. So it will be a whole automated process, but even if that is the case, there must be automation engineer who will monitor and yes, go through the reports and what is done and how it is done and what is the outcome of everything that artificial intelligence has created. So yeah, I believe that it can be automated, also the automation.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe someone else has a question? Or we can end up here. So if I have permission to close up the event. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for all of you on the other side of the monitor at home, actually. Sitting comfortably at home, so lucky you. Thank you guys for the good conversation. It was more than 1.5 hours, but we started 5 minutes ago. Very interesting topics we covered. Definitely we opened how to say the route to new discussions and to maybe new presentations. So maybe someone got an idea of some presentation that should prepare it and what should talk about. So again, thank you so much to all of you and have a great day. Thank you.